Hello. How are you?
I am okay.
I love the fact we're
Didn't
both.
even plan it.
I know, that's what I was just gonna say too. We're both wearing blue sweaters because apparently we think it's cold outside. It's not,
I'm just
but
in my basement, so that's why I'm cold.
I didn't even realize your office was in your basement.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Well,
Okay, so
no, you
we're
go.
continuing with our archetypes,
Hmm.
right? Herd intelligence. For those who haven't heard about herd
Haha. Heard
intelligence.
heard about her?
For those who don't know about herd intelligence, please visit our website because there's information in there about it. But essentially, it is the our program where we really get into working with individuals within teams and teams within cultures, and it's been really great. The building of this program, I'm kind of in my happy place because I love building curriculum. But in that, we were doing archetypes. We've been
Yes.
talking about archetypes.
We have been. And I think just in case people, don't listen to us often, although they really should. It's kind of rude if they don't. But just in case, I think the biggest thing is really going back to the whole idea that, organizations are systems, right? And so there's a lot of things that come into those systems, behaviors and environment and situations and relationships. And too often, what historically has happened is we've tried to treat those things in isolation, and we're trying to address the fact that you cannot treat them in isolation. You need to treat them together as one, because that is actually how the world works. And so we can, if you just treat somebody's behaviors, but you don't take into account the environment, then those behaviors don't necessarily align. And I think for today's archetype that we're covering, it's probably one of the ones that I would say that it's just there's a lot of impact that can hit relationships and situations and environment and behavior. And I would say it's because this is one of the more outward of the personalities usually, and so that tends to have more of an influence simply because it tends to be a bigger, more extroverted, more present personality. Doesn't have to be, but tends to be.
Mhm. So this person is the person on the team. See if you recognize them. This is the person on the team who is a top performer. They
Mm-hmm.
might come off as being arrogant and self-centered. They might come off that way. Doesn't mean they are, but that might be how they come off. They are highly competitive. Um, they care deeply about perception, right? So these are just a few of the things of who we call the driver.
Yes, these are your results oriented, intensely focused on outcomes. Success is measured by winning. Lots of good things. I say, as the person who probably connects with this archetype quite well. So, um, so
So that's a good
yes.
point, though. Good point, though, Mel, because here's the thing. All of these different archetypes, they have their strengths and they have their opportunities for growth, right?
Yes.
And they're all needed on a team.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's recognizing and starting to harness some of the things and sort of realizing some of the things that could show up positively and some of the things that could show up negatively. And I would say I kind of connect with this is one of the archetypes that I definitely connect with the most. We talk about sort of having a primary archetype and then a secondary archetype. Um, and for me, this is one of the ones that I do connect with the most. But I don't need to be first. So that's the slight shift in this is a lot of the people who fall into a driver seat like to be first, but I refuse to be last. So I have just a little bit of a tempered down driver, but like the competition, the results focus, the speed, all of those things I connect with 100%. But I don't need to be first. I just can't be last.
Mm.
So
Okay.
so it's
Okay.
it and I would say I have a little bit more of like the wanting to bring others along with me, which is what we talk about in when we work with people is understanding like, what how do we use it for good versus how could we potentially use it? I always say for good or for evil. But
Well, so then you would be a driver that's in the oh gosh, what's the guiding space,
guiding, yes.
right? Yeah, you're bringing
Yeah.
people along with you.
Yeah. And I think I've spent a lot of time over the years working on. So, again, if you're joining us for the first time, we talk about people, we ask people can ask themselves, what zone am I in right now? And what zone do I need to be in right now? And our zones are drifting, grounded, and guiding. So, when I'm drifting, I'm probably off on my own, more focused on my own stuff, right? When I'm grounded, I'm in an okay place and everything else, but when I'm guided, I'm pulling other people along with me. I'm really helping to lead the herd, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
Drifting, I'm getting off on my own a little bit. Grounded, I'm with the herd, but I'm not necessarily leading that herd. And so
Mhm.
for myself, I've learned a lot over the years, things that led me to be drifting um personally. So one of the things, and I try and teach salespeople this, one of the things I learned really early on is, for me, if I needed the bonus, the commission, the extra, because I always was in sales roles, which meant I earned money through bonus and commission. If I needed it, um, then I was not my best self. I was more competitive. I would do things to get the money. And so I
Mhm.
never budgeted my income on, so I learned really early, don't budget my income on counting on bonuses or counting on commissions. They were always extra because then I could be my best self and show up as my best self because anything I got was extra. And so I just financially, because I needed to feel safe and secure, and if I didn't feel safe and secure, my competition rose and my need to win rose, and that led to poorer behavior. And so that was something that I learned early, and that was something I tried to teach people when they came into sales, was don't count on your commission. Live on your base. Your commission is bonus, and
Mhm.
then it's really exciting all the time.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, so if you have a driver on your team, right, or if you identify with what we're talking about, what is going to help make you feel part of the team and not kind of outside or doing your own thing? And how do leaders rein them in?
Yeah, and I think like this is definitely an archetype. Again, leading sales teams and leading always kind of working in performance-based cultures my whole career. Like this is an archetype I am familiar with, and I have I've worked with those salespeople who are incredible salespeople and terrible teammates. And then I've worked with terrible teammates. And I've worked with the salespeople who are incredible salespeople and really good at helping people want to come along for the ride with them. And it's just
Mhm.
that slight shift, right? Like, because a really great salesperson is aspirational. You want to be like them. Like you look at them and you really admire them. And you're like, wow, these are great skills. How do I do that? But then it's that slight shift of when it's like I think credit can play a big role, right? So if I'm a salesperson that's very focused on winning, sometimes I need all the credit, versus if I'm a salesperson who's really focused on winning, but I want the team to win, then the team gets the credit. And that slight
Right.
shift changes culture and dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that you had said prior to us getting on is the unmanaged driver can be a nightmare. to work with.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they're very much about themselves and the winning and the competitiveness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like obviously I naturally fall back to talking about salespeople because I spent so much time leading them, but I've led some really competitive admin people. It's not as often, but I've led some really competitive admin people too who are big drivers. And again, I think if we kind of shift out of sales and think about what driving looks like, if I'm say in an admin role, it looks like volume. It looks like working harder than everybody else. It looks like
Mhm.
pushing how much can we get done. If you think about like a customer service call center type environment, right? How many calls can we make? How fast can we make them? Like there's a speed that goes along
Yeah.
with the driver. And so you think about what that can turn into if I'm a driver who's also leading a team in some way, like that can really turn into pushing people outside of their limits. It can lead to poor customer relationships. It can lead to not necessarily focusing on the right things for the right reasons because we're focused on speed and pace and all of those things. And so that's where when I say it can be a nightmare, that's what that can come into because it turns into customer satisfactions issue, team engagement issues, um, things kind of success being measured off of the wrong metrics and not measuring the right KPIs.
Yeah. And for team members who have a driver on their team, sometimes it can make some very competent people feel incompetent,
Mhm.
right? Because the driver is go, 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 fast paced. And sometimes if we're not all at that same pace, it can sometimes make you feel like, oh, am I not doing enough? Am I not good enough? And right. And
Yeah.
those thoughts and those feelings start to come into play. And so that has to be recognized.
Yeah, and I think even if we think about it on the flip side, like from the driver's perspective too, when we talk about environment, right? If we have always measured success one way,
Mm,
and now we're starting to measure success a different way, and that's not the way that I've normally been winning, what does that look like? Right. And so I can remember in an organization that I worked for where we had measured success on volume, and then we started to measure success on quality. And
mm,
there were a lot of drivers who couldn't transition between the two. And so now all of a sudden its confidence is down, pushback against the change is up, right? Like it shows up differently because my identity is connected to being a performer. And so all of a sudden, if I'm not a performer, what does that do to the environment and to the culture? And I'm not going down quietly. Like I'm bringing everybody else with me.
mm. Yeah, yeah. So if you're the driver, right? If
Hmm.
you're the driver and you recognize, yeah, that's me, and you're showing up in a, let's do both. If you're showing up in a drifter as a drifter, or
Yep.
if you're showing up as guiding, what
Yep.
do you need to be looking out for?
I think if I'm showing up as drifting, it's helping to understand the team impact. And I think one of the great things, and so for those who don't know, like we work with EQI, we work with DISC, we work with a lot of different assessments and tools to help really build a full picture. And so I think sometimes we have to step back and look at what what is driving the driver, but truly what is driving the driver,
Mhm.
because and then start to sort of peel some pieces away, because I think, and I'm sure Jen, you can speak to this too, right? Like it's there are those drivers who are driving because maybe I'm not super confident, and I'm driving because this is how I get my value. This is how I build sort of that confidence, right? Or my confidence is directly connected to that. But then there's like there could be that driver who like um they like it's that winning side of things. So it's like if I'm winning, if winning is really important to me and it's that competitiveness, I would try and put that person into like a team challenge, right? Like where now I've got to pull the whole team together, right? If it's in a in an environment where there's say like a service person, a sales person, and a retention person, let's say, right? Like everybody has metrics and we all have to win, could be how I shift that behavior and get them to focus on the team win, right? So it's looking, or it could be how we celebrate wins. So it's looking for those opportunities to try and understand what is driving the need for this.
And self-awareness is key. I mean, we talk about emotional intelligence and how self-awareness is the foundational skill. And we also have to understand social awareness. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
for the driver, it's really important to kind of tap into the empathy skill, right?
Yeah.
To think about other people and how your behavior might be impacting others. Doesn't mean that you have to change or in the sense of the work and the quality of the work and everything you do. It doesn't mean that. It just means to better understand how you might be coming across to your team so that you
Yeah.
can function as a collective as opposed to individual.
Yeah, and I think, we talked in one of the other ones where we were talking about archetypes, we talked about, that the ambiguity, right? And that ambiguity is hard for some in different ways, right? I think for this group, how what ambiguity shows up like and where we need to pay attention to it is, do I know how to win? Because if we've started to shift the situation a little bit and shift that environment a little bit where winning looks different, but we haven't clearly laid out how do I win, we're not creating an environment for them to be the most successful in. And so now but again, I need to take responsibility for that as the driver, and I need to say, what does winning look like for me? I need to know what you need from me. And if my goals aren't clear, I don't get to just go haywire. I have to ask for that clarity. I have to ask for that conversation. And the
Mhm.
reality is, this is a group, not all, but most, we do disc as well. And so a lot of drivers would fall into the D personality. Um,
Mhm.
and so they take it like they give it. They're pretty straight up, right? Like give them feedback, talk to them. And I find this a lot of the time, to what you were just talking about, the drivers don't always recognize the impact they're having on others because they it's just kind of like, I always use a plant analogy when we teach disc, right? I always say we have to move a plant, and the D personality is like, plant moved, done. Like, what's the big deal? And that is a lot of the time where it's like, things are facts, they're very just, this is how it is. And so they
Mhm.
don't always realize that other people look at things differently or think about things differently or feel things differently, because to that driver, to that D personality, to that person who is confident in their decision making, fact, action, done.
Some
Nothing in
people need
between.
more time to process,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't make them better or worse, just means different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having a diverse team, right? Not diversity in what people traditionally think with gender and race, and we're talking about diversity in terms of the archetypes, right? How
Yeah.
people show up.
Yeah. Well, and even with emotional intelligence, I often use impulse control as an example to show, because when we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about it in terms of how do we use it? How do we use our emotions to navigate our environment, to navigate our decision making, to navigate the people around us? And so impulse control is one. So if we think about it from a scoring standpoint, right? Low score means I don't necessarily use my impulse control as often. High score means I use it more often. So if we think about what that looks like in real life, low impulse control looks like fast decisions, risk taking, willingness to jump, not weighing things out, right? High impulse control looks like really looking at pros and cons, probably low risk adversity or low risk, what am I trying to
All
say?
right.
Tolerance, thank you. Low risk tolerance, right? Like it looks different. And the reality is, if everybody on the team has a high impulse control, there'd probably be a really hard, it would be hard to move. It would be hard to change. It would be hard to bring things forward. If everybody has low impulse control, sheer chaos, right? Chaos. Um, go, new idea, try it, new idea, try it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like impulse control to me is that perfect example to show that it is a spectrum, and both sides of the spectrum bring value, such significant value. You need somebody on the team who's willing to push, and you need somebody on the team who's willing to pull, because that's how you actually find the middle ground. And so that's where having these diverse people is powerful, but it also leads to conflict.
Yes, yes, it can. Yes, it can. As we talked about, right?
Yeah.
There can be a lot of in in insecurity,
Yeah.
right? Some fragility that happens and stuff like that. And so for if there's a driver on the team, the responsibility both sides, the leader and the driver, there's a responsibility to communicate, have those
Yes.
conversations, figure out the leader needs to let the driver know this is the impact you're having, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we work to make you part of the team, right? And the driver needs to understand, I need to communicate what my goals are and what are the things that
Yeah.
really satisfy me and help me to feel like I'm winning.
Yeah. And recognizing that, like the natural tendency might be to say, I want the driver to mentor, I want the driver to do this, and recognizing that that's not always the safest space for them to sit. Like, because again, recognizing the consequence in that in some ways is if I'm now mentoring, now I'm not necessarily, now I'm taking time out of the time that normally drives the results, which means that I'm not necessarily being fueled by the things that I love to be fueled by. So it's recognizing, like, how else can we lean into that? Or what could that look like? Or how do you ensure I'm still celebrated if this happens? Like, it's just taking more thought into it, to ensure that, like, the idea is still to set them up to win, and still to set them up for the things that are internally driving the driver, so that they can really still feel that success.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so driver, what are we leaving you with? What's the question?
Oh, this is a big one. um I think as a driver, it's, if you identify with this and you see yourself in this archetype, I would ask yourself, where have you potentially bulldozed over somebody? And I use that word because that's the word I would use to describe myself. Where have you potentially bulldozed over somebody unintentionally, like without
Mhm.
realizing it? And then if you're leading a driver, do you feel the driver has the boundaries they need to both win and be a good team player?
Yeah. Good questions. Makes you think. Makes you
Makes you
think.
think. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
I've bulldozed over a few in my day. Worked on it.
Yay.
I've worked on it.
Thank you everyone for being with us and for being here and sharing in our archetypes. And I'm really looking forward to people putting in the comments, that's me, or I know somebody like
Yeah,
that, and how you're working with them, because I think that's fun. It's a fun way of doing some really important work.
100%. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We will be back very soon with our next episode and our next archetype. I am Melissa Maloney.
And I'm Jen Matwawana, and we will see you next time.
Bye.